U.S. situation.
Joni Ernst, Republican of Iowa, speaking to Chuck Todd on MTP. Dakota Wood, a senior research fellow at Defense Programs at the Center for National Defense at the Heritage Foundation, a conservative public policy think tank, and joins Akiko and me, and Shri from Washington, D.C. Dakota, thank you for making a late appointment with us on what is a Sunday night, your time. In your estimation, and having heard that chat that Joni Ernst just had on Meet the Press, was this more cosmetic than anything else? Because the Syrian government has continued its assault on rebels. Bashar al-Assad showed up for work and made a photo op out of it the next day, trying to pretend that nothing really happened.
No, I don't think it was cosmetic at all. I mean, anytime you launch over 100 precision-guided munitions and completely destroy 3 facilities, I don't know how that could be characterized as a minor, slap on the wrist. So the challenge that the current administration has, given that you have Russia, Iran, and Syria all intermixed there, the U.S. is involved in Syria because of the Islamic State, trying to support allies in that counterterrorism mission, but the allies you're supporting are also in fisticuffs with Turkey and certainly anti-Assad government. So trying to do something to send a message about the use of chemical munitions without getting further involved in all of these other major fights going on is just a difficult challenge. And from what we've been told, the advisors to the president came up with a set of options to respond to the chemical use without getting embroiled in the civil war or in some of these other issues. So I think it was just a difficult task, and they did the best they could.
Dakota, prior to these attacks being carried out, the president had made it very clear he wanted U.S. troops out of Syria. The White House has come out since saying that President Trump still wants U.S. forces in Syria to come home as quickly as possible, saying that the mission has not changed for the U.S. Should it change, given the reality on the ground?
No, I don't think so. And I think there is this danger of conflating issues. The U.S. presence, as I just mentioned, supporting Kurdish militia and other groups in the anti-ISIS fight. If ISIS is all but destroyed, does the U.S. need to remain there? If you're going to stay there and support groups that are anti-Syrian government, well, now you're getting involved in the Syrian civil war. So 2 different missions. The president does not want to get involved in the civil war. He views the anti-ISIS fight as all but finished there. And then you had this third item come up, this use of chemical munitions, yes, multiple times by the government, but sometimes the use just, goes beyond the pale, and the world cries out for some kind of a response to that. So they undertook a strike mission to deal with the chemical thing. The anti-ISIS fight is all but done, and the president wants to extract. So I think he and his team are trying to be very clear about what task is being performed for what purpose and not try to get the 2 confused.
So, Dakota, let me go back to what happened a year ago, because obviously the U.S. responded at that time after a chemical weapons attack by Bashar al-Assad, going after Syrian air bases. That didn't seem to really cripple his ammunition there. So help me understand what's different this time around, and how confident you are that these attacks this time, carried out along with France and the UK, actually did go a step further in crippling Assad's regime.
Well, I think your statement right there, a step further, is the real differentiator. The first strike was against the means of delivery of munitions. So the aircraft and the air base that were used to employ the chemical weapons against populations last time. This time that went after the means of research and development and the means of production and storage. So you're kind of rolling back that line from delivery capability to production capability. And if they've taken out the primary R&D facility and the primary storage facilities, as General McKenzie, the Joint Chiefs, Chief of Staff there, had mentioned, it really sets back the Syrian program a great deal. Trying to reconstitute that would be very difficult. So, it's a measured step-by-step. If you had to do another strike, it would have to be almost assuredly be against command and control facilities of the Syrian military. And we'll have to see if Assad decides to use chemical munitions and have the U.S. and others respond accordingly.
And Dakota, what's going to be the response of Assad's allies, most notably Iran? And I would imagine that US-Iranian relationships are already being set back, and this recent development is going to set them back even further. So with that in mind, what are the implications for May the 12th and the deadline imposed on whether the sanctions are going to be renewed or not?
Well, I mean, the administration has said that they're going to step up even more sanctions against the Russian government and key people within that government. On the other hand, with Iran and Russia in particular, they have a huge portfolio that they can leverage in kind of responding in a horizontal fashion. You know, do you up support to Assad forces against the Kurdish militia? Do you provide support to Turkey in its fight with the Kurdish militia? Can you do more problematic types of combat actions in Ukraine? Do you step up actions in the Baltic Sea against the NATO northern flank there, the Nordic countries and the Baltic states? We've seen, a 2,000% increase in Russian trolls and bot activity in the cyber warfare. So there are things that you can do in the cyber domain completely outside of Syria that causes problems for Great Britain, France, and the United States. So it depends on how Putin wants to push this, creating problems in a response effort that does not have to be geographically constrained to Syria per se.
Yeah, certainly is going out on a limb himself, isn't he? And adding a capital P to those who would dub him a pariah there. But Dakota, thank you very much for joining us on a Sunday evening. Dakota Wood joining us from the Heritage Foundation, D.C.